Rebecca had last minute challenge. She may join, but she was asking earlier, as you saw, if we had a quorum, which I think we do. And Chuck is at a family wedding in South America, wedding, so he's out. But with four, we have a quorum. Carol, is that correct?
You do. You have a quorum.
I'm good.
Okay, so with that, I'll call the meeting to order, and thank you all for joining. First item up, I guess, is to review and approve the minutes of our January 19th meeting, which Michael had distributed. Michael, I had, they look,
Yeah, you got to help me out with
maybe
this
the
one.
the only suggestion memory serves, which is always weak for me. Michelle did report on section 601, which is the sort of role and responsibility for the town administrator, and we had decided to leave it unchanged.
Okay.
Is that correct?
Yeah.
Michelle?
Yes,
Yep.
that's correct.
So I think, and that I think was that was my only suggested change. Any others from the committee? Okay, so can I have a motion to approve the minutes with that change?
I
I'll make
approve.
that motion.
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor? Aye, motion's carried. So I guess we spent a little time, and this was something, Carol, that you had teed up many moons ago, wrestling with how best to language the change and hopeful addition of some flexibility to the Little Compton Housing Trust. And Ed had taken it on and has, I think, succeeded in making a change that provides for that. So Ed, would you take us through that? I think he sent it to everybody earlier, so hopefully.
I'm happy to take you through, but I will say, Jack, that I now have grave doubts about my approach. So the copy that I sent around was the copy that I had provided at the last meeting. Didn't make any changes. I will say that I spoke with Bob Mushin shortly after the last meeting, kind of brought him up to speed on this. You had expressed a concern that in section 103 town property, there ought to be a specific mention with town council approval. That didn't seem to be a concern of his, but it's a minor enough addition that if it were, I think it could easily be added. I certainly pointed out to him that no one wanted to present anything that the council was going to reject. One question that I have, and Carol, with you here, perhaps we can hash out the thinking more clearly. So in section 103 town property, it mentions specifically that the phrase is exclusive of acquisitions by the Little Compton Agricultural Conservancy Trust. To a great extent, that phrase does not need to appear in section 103 because the Little Compton Agricultural Conservancy Trust does not hold property in the name of the town of Little Compton. They hold it in the name of the Little Compton Agricultural Conservancy Trust. Similarly, the Little Compton Housing Trust is a separate and distinct entity from the town of Little Compton. So the Little Compton Housing Trust it has the authority in its bylaws to hold property in the name of the town of Little Compton, but presumably it would be much like the Ag Trust, and it would hold the title to property in the name of the Little Compton Housing Trust, Inc. If the Little Compton Housing Trust has funding available to it, it does not need the way that its bylaws read now. If it has the funding available to it, and that doesn't necessarily mean cash on hand, if they had a lender willing to provide the funds, they, without council approval and without the approval of the financial town meeting, could already engage to buy property. And that property would be held in the name of the Little Compton Housing Trust Incorporated. So if we make this distinction with the Little Compton Housing Trust and include it in 103 as I have written, to a great extent, it's kind of moot in that it would be very much like the Ag Trust. It makes it clear to people who aren't familiar and presume that the Ag Trust or the Housing Trust are part of the corporate body that is the town of Little Compton, but it's kind of superfluous. The one question that I really have in thinking about this since is that the town of Little Compton, the way 103 reads, could buy property and then give that property or sell for $1 or something to the housing trust. It could also allow the housing trust to administer property that is held in the name of the town of Little Compton. But the exception that we're making for the housing trust would not exempt the town from having to go to the financial town meeting for approval, because it would be held in the name of the town of Little Compton, even if it ultimately was intended to go to the housing trust. Does that make sense? Are people following what I'm saying?
Yes.
So,
I am following you.
so what I don't know is what the workaround would be, because it would have to be, in matters relating to the Little Compton Housing Trust, the town of Little Compton could have the exemption in 103, but exempting the housing trust doesn't really help that. The housing trust right now doesn't have any money. If they're waiting for the town to come up with money, if we exempt the housing trust, the town is still going to be subject to the provisions of 103.
That is true. The solicitor has been giving the opinion to the council for a number of years now that he perceives that even though property is titled to the Little Compton Agricultural Conservancy Trust, he perceives that it is town property. Now, that is a whole another debate that can happen with powers to be, but that's how he has led the council when they've talked about section 103.
Okay, I was unaware of that. I don't know what the rationale is, but presumably that whatever rationale he has would extend to the housing trust.
Right.
It seems to me as though it's a bit of a stretch, especially since the General Assembly, in the case of the Ag Trust, the General Assembly created it. I don't know. I'm not a lawyer. I just know what I read in the town charter. So that is the only question that has arisen for me. If we exempt the housing trust, we're exempting a body that, like the Ag Trust, would already seem exempted unless the solicitor has some case that he can make for why it wouldn't be. And if it involves town funds, we wouldn't be exempting the town council from this process with those funds.
Right.
So I wonder if it is a question for the solicitor and how best to address this.
Right. I don't think the town council is looking to be exempted from 103. Because I don't think something, well, if you were looking to have the council be exempt from 103, you might as well not have 103 at all, because
I get it. So, but I think that if you say specifically in cases involving the housing trust, that a different procedure would take place, then it would make some sense. But I think if you don't allow that for the town council, then in many cases, there's still the same. If the presumption is that the town is going to provide the funding for the housing trust, there's still that sort of time delay handicap, because the town council is going to have to go because they can only receive it in the name of the town.
Right.
And so there's, so I don't know what the best workaround is. I don't think it's insurmountable, and I'm not trying to make problems where there aren't. But in just thinking about this, since the initial change that I made and thinking about it, I don't know if this really makes any difference at all. I do believe that if a system were set up where the town council could grant its approval, it would make it much easier for the housing trust without question. And I do believe that still that a public hearing should not be necessary, only because it would deprive the council of the ability to meet in executive session to discuss it. So I think, and if you don't require a public hearing, the council can always decide that they want to have a public hearing.
Mhm.
But it also gives them the flexibility to not have a public hearing, gives them the flexibility to put it on the financial town meeting warrant if they want to, gives them the flexibility to have, bring it up at a council meeting, gives them the flexibility to have a hearing, to meet an executive session, to do what they want, you know?
Mhm.
And I think that, to my mind, makes the most sense. Bob, my impression of the conversation that I had with Bob was that he was in agreement with that. I don't know where I'm at, and I'm sorry to kind of bring this up at this point, but considering we can't really
Well,
stuff outside of the meeting,
now's-
I don't really know where else to have done it, you know?
Well, honestly, I think,
So I'm just.
go ahead.
Go ahead, Carol.
No, I was just gonna
So,
say,
Ed,
I
are
see
you-
no real problem with you suggesting this wording, but also requesting that the town solicitor render an opinion on it. And then that gives the council the ability, because just because you may suggest this wording does not mean that that ends up being the final wording that happens on a ballot, if they do choose to put it on. So it could be that this is the beginning of a further conversation to narrow down whether that even belongs in there. And if it does, what other wording would we want in there to make it more accurate?
Yeah, I don't know. If you would like, Jack, I would be happy to come up with a sort of memo with what I just outlined and address it to you as chair. If it would be something that you'd then want to forward to the solicitor, I don't know what way you'd want to handle it, but
Well, why don't
if
we?
that would be helpful, I would do it.
Let's. Well, thank you, and let's kick this around. I mean, when this started, when we began this, that irregardless of whether the housing trust has sufficient funds or whether something is gifted, they were handicapped by the one moment of the year where, at least at present, they need, approval at the financial town meeting.
See, actually, Jack, they're not. I'm not sure what my assumptions about the housing trust were, but having read their bylaws, it's clear that they are not handicapped by that if they have the money or if they want to receive it as a gift. They don't have to go to the financial town meeting because they're not going to take it in the name of the town of Little Compton. Now, the solicitor may say that they're going to have to take it in the name of I don't know what the solicitor is going to say, but the way that I read the bylaws now, what appears on the warrant annually allows the housing trust to receive things in any name, quote unquote. And their bylaws allow them to receive it in any name. But it seems to me that if they receive it in the name of the Little Compton Housing Trust Incorporated, they don't have to go to the financial town meeting. If they can arrange with a lender for a property and get a mortgage on a property, they don't need to go to the financial town meeting. If they have the cash, they don't need to go. If they want to take a gift, they don't have to go.
Because it's not taking up.
Because it's not town property in the way that.
But it's also not
that
taking
is
up.
in the name of the town of Little Compton is town property.
Yeah, I think you need the solicitor to give an opinion on this, because I believe that he thinks opposite of you.
Okay.
Why? And Carol, Carol has.
I agree with you, Ed, but,
If he does, it makes matters much easier. If he does think that it is the case that it's town property, it makes it much easier. And I think that this goes a long way toward addressing the issues. You'd still have the problem with the council, if it's going to come up with the money, having to do it at the financial town meeting, but it at least would give the trust more flexibility.
Carol, have we had a case where the solicitor has had to render that opinion, or is that just a general opinion that he has of where the ag trust sits in terms of town property?
Well, the only other time that we had an attempt to do a housing project was the Laura Borges house where the Compton Cliffs used to be on West Main Road.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
at the time, he did say we had to go before the financial town meeting. So I I think it's worth writing a memo with Ed's thoughts and asking the solicitor to comment on whether or not you should even be attempting to change something here, or is his opinion different? Because it'll save us some aggravation, and it'll also answer the question with some finality. For as long as he's the solicitor, that would be the opinion the town council will go by.
Well, that's good by me, I think, but let me just ask you this is, so as the Home Rule Charter Commission, I should know this, but I don't. Can we, as our own entity, go to the solicitor and pose this question of him?
In all likelihood, he'll ask it to go before the council for their approval to answer you. So save you some time if you just shoot off the question to Bob Mushin and myself and ask that solicitor give you an opinion, and then Bob can just forward it to him and he'll answer.
Okay, so before we do that, is there a simple opportunity, a simpler opportunity here? And maybe we should just clarify it that way, and that's the best answer. But what if you took out, this is for you, Ed, you took out the specific mention in the Little Compton Housing Trust from section 103, right? You take out, you don't mention the Little Compton Housing Trust, and you leave 710 the way you have it. So basically you're saying, you know, what you're saying, with the approval of the town council, this may be very circuitous. You're not mentioning any hearing. They can have one, they cannot have one. The housing trust shall not be subject to the provisions of section 103, whether they're subject to those provisions or not.
Yeah, I don't know, Jack, only in that, to my mind, there's a question as to whether or not they are presently subject to them. You know, if reading the bylaws of organization, it's amazing how much power and discretion they seem to have. They're a pretty autonomous group. The council appoints people to the trust, but the council doesn't even have the ability to rewrite their bylaws. So I don't know what the answer is, but the way that I read their bylaws, and with the presumption again that section 103 deals with property that is specifically held in the name of the town of Little Compton, which is town property, they may not require it. I think that if we really want to do something for the housing trust, the best way to do it would be to remove whatever ambiguity there is, get an opinion from the solicitor, come up with the best way then to address the problems of timely acquisitions in whatever way the solicitor kind of advises, so that going down the road, you don't have any problems with implementing whatever it is that we ultimately come up with.
Okay, well, I would be good with that. Carol, if Ed was willing to write a note that I would forward to you and Bob, and you're in agreement, and we forward it to the solicitor.
Mm-hmm.
How long a process would that be? That shouldn't take
Well,
I'm just thinking
suppose-
about how,
Yeah, I would suspect that Bob would say this is something that needs to be answered in a timely manner and request that he do it, say before the next council meeting or something of that nature.
right. Okay. And then, okay, so we don't need to, so does the commission or the other members agree that that's our best way forward?
Sounds like it'd be the most efficient way to do it.
Yeah.
I think we're all in agreement, Ed. If you'd be willing to do that, you would draft that note and either send it directly or send it to me to send to Bob and Carol for their timely disposition with the solicitor.
I will see if I can have it to you tomorrow, Jack. I will send it to you. I think it's probably appropriate for you as chair to send on to Carol and Bob Mushin. And I will see if I can have it tomorrow. If not, certainly I'll have it by Wednesday morning.
Yeah, and if you do that,
Okay,
we have a meeting this week, but that agenda's basically complete. That gives him until at least the March 10th meeting, if Bob says it needs to be returned at a council meeting. And he may not say that, but, it's possible.
And the key determination from the solicitor will be, is the Little Compton Housing Trust, Inc., an independent entity and can hold property in its own name without approval of the financial town meeting or the town council. Is that oversimplifying?
No,
Well,
I
that
think
seems
that's
similar to-
perfectly encapsulating it.
Yep. I think that seems absolutely correct.
Sometimes, you just have to be careful what you ask for.
I would
Well,
be really,
I guess if I'm just thinking out loud that if that's the charter they have, that's the charter they have. So that gives them the independence they need.
right. I would be fascinated to see why the solicitor labels both of those entities as town property.
Okay. Well, thank you, Ed, for doing that. And so let's move on. If we can, we have a number of things. We're hoping to get into some final language format and so we can, and Carol, remind us, I'm presuming we're not determining that at this point, but that our next meeting will be in person, and I'm hoping, I can spend a number of days there kind of finalizing this report and have our meeting, and then maybe even meet with the council, or not the council, but with Bob and people to just take them through what our thinking is at that point. When would we optimally deliver our report?
well,
June or July?
July would be cutting it short, because the council needs time to ponder what's been given to them, potentially hold another hearing themselves with the public to talk about whether they want it on the ballot. That doesn't really by charter have to happen until just before the election, but sometimes they do an extra one when they first receive the charter question. So I would say one of the meetings in May would be your best, June would be your best bet. Because it has to be
To
all,
deliver,
yeah, end of May or June, the beginning of June would be your best time frame.
okay. So let's move to the drafts for review and discussion. And I think I may have confused this, but relative to the budget committee, and I think Ed, you may have formatted this 502B2. Recommend changes in compensation for any elected official of the town to that official by February 1st. Budget committee shall seek a recommendation of the town council on compensation for the town clerk. We're deleting and town
Oh,
treasurer. Did I get something?
Is this the
Um,
section you're talking about?
Yep.
Okay.
That's it. We may have a more recent version that Ed sent around, but for it's basically just for the town clerk and and we're deleting town treasurer and tax collector. And then in B3, yeah, this is it. The budget committee reviews a capital expenditure program for the town pursuant to the provisions of section 505 of the charter and applicable ordinance. The rationale being that it recognizes there's no longer an elected treasurer, tax collector. Both 502 and 505 recognize the town administrator's role in preparing the budget for the budget committee. There's probably a better way to, to shorten that rationale, but so does that make
Notice that
sense to
brevity
everybody
isn't one of my
besides,
strong suits, Jack.
No, I
No, I
thought
know. I could
I
find a
think
way to do
this
it.
was- I don't know whether the,
I got
don't know
your
if this was
email.
your language.
I got your email late last night after I had a chance to do it, and so I just dashed it off this morning because I knew we had this coming up.
Yeah.
I can rework it.
No. I think I just want to make sure we have 502, 50, B2 and B3. And then in 505, which Michelle sent around just before, the council shall provide by ordinance for the orderly preparation by the town administrator. And I think, Ed, you may have said the council provide for the orderly review by the budget committee. I think we've covered review by the budget committee in B3. So my sense is 505 should be the council should provide by ordinance for the orderly preparation by the town administrator of a multi-year program for capital expenditure by the town. And the rationale being that recognizes the town administrator's role in preparing the budget, but not reviewing the budget. Yeah, that's correct.
I
Right?
think that makes perfect sense.
Yep. In fact, I would make a motion that we adopt both of those 502 B3, B2 and B3 and 505 as recommendations for the council.
Well, if I can, I would second that.
I thought
Motion.
we already approved it. No?
Well, basically, we're clarifying this, and then we're adopting the rationale here, so we can actually get a couple of these things into the barn. And
To clarify,
So-
we would adopt the 505 draft that Michelle presented.
Correct.
Yes.
yeah, and I think Bob Mushin would be happy with that. I think I shouldn't speak for Carol, but there's interest in making sure we clarify the roles and responsibilities of the administrator preparing, the budget committee reviewing. And I guess I have one question. Does it make sense to everybody that the budget committee reviews and recommends? The current language has always been just reviews. I mean, in essence, it is recommending, but
Right.
what's everybody's feeling?
I think it has to recommend, I mean, in the
I do.
final analysis.
Yep.
Yeah.
Everybody good with that?
Yep.
Okay. So moved. Okay, section 603. I think that might have been one of our missing agents was going to take us through that. Give me 1 second. So Ed, is that the town treasurer and tax collector? Is that something you can take us through?
Sure. We no longer have a town treasurer and tax collector as an elected official, but we need to have a town treasurer and a tax collector. The finance director at the moment is filling that role. The finance director's job had been included within section 603 when it was anticipated that we would move away from an elected treasurer and tax collector and to an appointed finance director. So 603 just removes the elected, the edits that I made just remove the elected mentions or the mentions of the position as an elected one. And then it seemed, because the finance director is now an actual position, that as with every other position from the town administrator to the town clerk, it have its own section. So my suggestion was that we add what would be section 612, and that would be specifically devoted to the finance director. And it would also, at a prior meeting, Carol had mentioned that at some future point, the council may not wish to have the finance director be the treasurer and tax collector, but allow somebody else to delegate that, or allow the town finance director to delegate that. And so the description of the finance director just adds at the discretion of the town council, so that it isn't the way that it was reading would otherwise be that the finance director was required to be. This just allows the finance director to be, for so long as the council wants him or her to be.
That makes perfect sense to me. Any other comments?
No.
Carol, does that make sense to you?
Yeah, it does, and it reads very well, I think, for, thinking for somebody who's a third party who has no idea what this position is supposed to be. I think it's written very well.
Well, don't give Ed a fat head here, but thank you, Ed. And Carol, what about in terms of in the language when we use in conformance with Rhode Island General Law 45-8, the town council, is that in terms of, I know it's those kind of references are sprinkled through the charter. Is that a good thing, or is that complicating?
No, it's fine. It's the only time it gets complicated is if the general laws shift what their numbers are for some reason, and that randomly happens, but not very often. Sometimes rather than saying the actual, chapter, it'll just say for state law, but I don't think it's any huge harm by citing the exact title and chapter as it has.
Okay. Well, I agree with Carol that this is clear and establishes kind of the current game, but
Jack, just to clarify, my rationale for inserting it was that the state actually requires us to have a treasurer and a tax collector, and the positions of treasurer and tax collector are defined by the state. So that's the reason why I incorporated it. We no longer have an elected one. We're still required to have it, and the finance director is doing it. So it seemed as though I would just refer back to what the state requires for the position.
Yeah, good. Any other comments? We have a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve 603 and 612 as written to recommend to the council.
I second.
I'm in favor. So pass, thank you very much. Okay, 505, we've done. Section, I don't know if I'm going in order here, but section 204, something that Monica was going to write up, but I think we all agreed on this and probably approved it a few times before, but with the rationale and with Carol here, skipping down to the middle, the elector may vote by entering the voting area at their convenience at any time following the opening of the meeting place for the transaction of the town meeting, and for no less than 15 minutes or such additional time for all voters to cast their ballot as determined by the Board of Canvassers after the adjournment of the town meeting. The rationale is there's probably a better one than this, but the town clerk suggested timing of no less than 15 minutes or such additional time for all voters to cast their ballot is more than sufficient.
Yep.
Any comments?
Nope.
Can I have a motion to approve this for recommendation of the council?
I will move that.
Second?
I'll second.
Okay.
Okay, so moved. So now we have, so the taxes, well, let's go to the easier one here. 902 is, you have that, Carol, are you working the?
Yep.
This deals with the fire department. We approved this 3 or 4 months ago at a meeting where the council joined us. If you'll recall, the current language subjected the fire chief to the approval of the town council for rules and regulations concerning the operation of the fire department. It was quite different than the, I think it's 901, which is the police chief. And Chief Petron had recommended that we create language that imbued him with, as the chief administrative officer of the department, the final departmental authority in all matters of policy, operations, and discipline, subject to the applicable provision of state law, and take out the oversight of the council on those items. And the rationale is that this clarifies that administrative authority for the fire department's policy, operations, and discipline resides with the fire chief, aligns with section 901 in the charter for the police chief. Any comments? We did talk.
I think that makes
Bob
perfect
about
sense.
it. Yeah. Any other comments? Suggestions? Can I have a motion to accept this with the rationale to move forward?
I move to accept it as written.
I will second.
Okay, so moved. Thank you. So Monica was going to take us through section 605. You have that, Carol?
Yeah, I gotta find.
I may have
Hang on.
scribbled. I was pathetic with Microsoft Word when I was at my little home kiosk, but on my iPad, it's really weak. So,
All right, who sent me 605? Because,
Did I forward it to you, Carol?
oh, was that the one?
Yep.
Let me see.
I can forward it again if you don't have it.
No, I got it. I thought I had,
I'm sorry, I have 505. I
yeah, you
forwarded,
sent me 505.
uh,
Find 605. I don't see anything here with a 605 on it of what was sent to me. Does somebody else have it electronically?
uh,
Do.
six oh five. Um,
Ed, if you're talking to us, you're on mute.
I'm searching my inbox here, but I don't
I
come up with
sent this
605.
around with, we approved this a long time ago as well. Well, maybe I have it here. 505. 603. 612. No.
I don't have it.
Yeah, I don't see anything in what's been forwarded to me ever.
I have an email that seems to have a copy, and if you don't mind, Carol, rather than download it and then do it, I'll just forward you the entire email.
Oh, okay, all right, sure.
Which email address would it, you like me to send it to?
cwardell@littlecomptonri.org.
Um,
Really just for Zoom invites.
okay. What's going on? Hang on. I just lost it. Now, sorry, I just got you in my inbox. Wait a minute. Section 605. I just had it. As attachment.
Yeah, I have it, but the attachments didn't come through in my copy. It was sent November 6th, I think.
Okay.
I have a note that we approved these on November 15th.
Forward to.
I may have sent this.
Okay, I just forwarded to you, Carol, and it is there as an attachment on, it's an email that Jack had sent around, and it is an attachment to that email.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm on an ancient MacBook here, and if I have to then get my 2011 copy of, Word to open it up, I just watch the little circle spin for minutes. I have a more recent one, but I don't have that. I can't get that. I can't get this email on my newer computer. So anyway, between two machines.
Did you receive it, Carol?
No, not yet.
Well, I can, while we're waiting, I'll sort of give you a preamble. Section 605 deals with moving from, a board of tax assessors to a single tax assessor.
All right,
And
am I looking
in
for 605?
Yeah.
Yes,
Well, what you sent me has 204, 606, 502, 902, and 505. I don't have a 605.
Hold
I can't-
on, let me go.
It would have been from way back.
Let me go back and see. Sorry, I thought that. I may not have it then, Carol. I'm sorry to have wasted your
That's
I
okay.
couldn't find anything on 605 either.
605 as attachment. So
well, I'm sure I have it.
the one, Carol, I believe that on, am I muted or let me see where I am. So I
I can hear
believe
you.
that on the one that I forwarded to you, if you open the one that's 606, it also has 605.
With
in
it?
that
Oh, all
attachment.
right, let me see.
Yeah, I have them on the same page.
— 606. All right, so nope, not there. Close all tabs. No, close card tab. I don't want that. I want 606. So it says 606. When I open 606, it comes to 204, which is something that Jack scanned. On that one, it's just 606. There's no 605 on it. Let me just close all tabs, even though that'll mean something.
I may have been expecting Monica to send that one.
I'm resending this one, Carol. It went on my end. It has 605 and 606 on the same page. It's possible that I sent you the wrong copy, and I'm sorry if I did. But I just resent one that's on my end. I can open and see 605 and 606.
Okay, yeah, all I have is what Jack actually sent earlier.
There should be 7 attachments to the email that I forwarded, and
Yep, all right, so
there is the
there's one
last of
here
the
that says
attachments.
605 and 606.
Okay, sorry about that. My mistake.
That's okay. All right, so let me put that over here, share my screen.
You do have 605 and 606. Yeah, good.
Yeah, I think I found it too.
All right, is that what you want?
Yeah, good.
Yep.
That's it. Perfect.
Yay.
I think I was hoping that. Okay, so as you can see here in the deep dark recesses of our memory, in section 605, we're going from a board of tax assessors. So the first paragraph we're taking out in its entirety. So we're eliminating there shall be a board of tax assessors with 3 members elected for 6 years, staggered terms, with a term of 1 member expiring, the electing of another. The board shall have and perform all of the duties tax assessors set forth by. And in the second paragraph, we're amending or revising. The town council has by ordinance made provision for the replacement of the board of tax assessors with a single tax assessor employed by the town council from among persons having had prior professional training and or experience in assessment, property appraisal, and related matters. Tax assessor shall have and perform all the duties and discharge the responsibilities tax assessors is set forth by state law. Some of that was written by Gary Mataronis, who was attending that meeting. So the rationale for that and soon to be 606 is it reflects the current structure of a single appointed tax assessor and then a tax assessment board review, which which is how 606 is amended. That amendment is, or that revision is, there shall be a tax assessment board of review. You can read it there. Consisting of 3 members, same kind of structure, each serves 6-year staggered term. And then how we transition from the current structure, which we have largely done, to the new one. So those were the changes we made, and the rationales reflect the current structure of a single appointed tax assessor and an appointed tax assessment board of review. Does that make sense to everybody?
Yeah, I remember this now. That cleans it up really nicely.
Any comments,
No,
hesitations, revisions? Can I have a motion to approve?
I will move that we approve the amendments to and corrections to 605 and 606 to recommend to the town council.
second.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so moved. Thank you. Okay, so let's see. Now we had, so the hope was that Phil was going to, kind of put in format, which he might even send tonight. I told him not to worry, given, his challenges. 301, 304 in the rationale. We've done 605.
I can't tell if Jack is standing really, really still or if he froze.
I think he froze.
I think he froze, yeah. I wasn't quite sure there.
And now he's gone.
Yeah, well, he's probably going out and trying to sign in again. You lost your quorum, so we'll give him a little bit of time. But if he doesn't come back, then I think you're done.
He'll be back, I'm sure.
Yeah,
He's so diligent. And I get to, while he's doing that, I can get to my papers on my desk and throw out so much stuff. Not related to this group, just stuff.
I like your screensaver, Michael.
Oh, you like that?
Yeah.
does anyone have his cell phone number?
Yeah, let me text him.
I have something, but I'm not sure if it's a cell phone number.
Yeah, he's trying to sign back in. Excuse me for 1 second. Dog concierge. My life.
I don't have your agenda in front of me. Is there a lot left that you needed to do?
No, it's just, no. No, probably about 10 minutes, maybe. There's 3 more sections, I think, and then that's pretty much it, I think.
If Jack doesn't reappear, I would be happy to have another meeting this month if anybody wanted to, or before whatever the March date is. Because this is about meetings and agendas, Carol, I'm going to presume that I'm not talking out of turn here and doesn't require a quorum, but I don't know if that is open. Just for myself, I'm happy to be available if he wants to have another meeting to address whatever's left on this agenda before March.
I'm only going to be available up till March 3rd, and I will be unavailable unless it's Zoom. I'll be unavailable in person till the end of April, through the end of April.
Carol, so we're allowed to choose to have Zoom meetings, is that correct?
Yes, until the expiration of that most recent order, which is March
What is it, March?
March 19th.
Yep.
Oh, great, yeah. I'd love
So
to.
hypothetically speaking, you could schedule another one via Zoom. Maybe the March 14th, if that works for everybody.
Yeah, that'd be great.
It
I don't want
does,
to miss any, I don't want to miss any, but I'm going to be gone. I'll be babysitting. New baby and existing babies.
Should I text that to? I have Jack.
I'm being locked out of Zoom for some reason. I put to the number that's on the invite. So meeting ID. Maybe I.
So Jack, what we're thinking is that we could have another meeting on the 14th of March to finish this agenda and anything else, if that is acceptable.
That works for me.
So then we would close this meeting because we have no quorum.
Yeah, shall I try to, I'm looking at, I was thinking meeting ID and I was putting in password. Maybe I should I try one more time or should we call it?
If he tries to join by just putting the meeting ID in and the password in, he should join, it will then join him as an attendee. And he should be able to get in.
Okay, I was putting the passcode in where the meeting ID, I think, was
Oh, no.
supposed to go. Okay, meeting ID, hold on here.
My guess is that you're still signed in, and that's why it won't let you sign in again.
So,
Well, if he was using the Zoom link, then yes, that would make sense. If he's just doing ID and passcode, it should be a different attendee.
it's just spinning around. It's,
Yeah.
Let's just,
you're saying sign in? I should sign in, not hit join
No.
meeting?
No. Join. Sign in as me as a host.
Okay, hold on. So I'm going to your link, the email you sent just before the meeting, and it says, should I try to, it doesn't look like I've got anything live there, so. Click here to join.
You can't click on the link.
Yeah.
I realize it's a bit of a pain, but you could actually continue the last few things the way you're doing it right now if you wanted to.
Oh, really?
oh yeah, let's do that.
Just over the phone, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, actually, I liked where Michael was going. I think we've, with the exception of 103 and 710, which we need to take under advisement with the solicitor and Carol and Bob and Ed's help, we've addressed 603, 612, 204, 502, 505, 606, 902, 505, and 605. So we have,
We did 301 and 304 too. Didn't we?
pardon me?
Didn't we do 301 and 304 as well?
We didn't talk about
Tonight.
that tonight. That's what Phil was going to take us through. I had sent out a note, I don't know, 4 or 5 days ago about, what I hoped each person. So maybe on the 14th, we'll have Phil take us through 301 and 304.
Okay.
And we still have 103 and 710 to deal with. I think that gives us
Did we lose him?
15 or 14 suggested revisions depending upon the outcome of the housing trust discussion. And so I think if we March 14th. And I'm guessing that'll be in person.
No, that will be a Zoom meeting.
Okay.
We can choose to have that a Zoom meeting, Jack.
Yeah, 'cause I won't be in town, but I can
And
zoom.
I'll tee up, Phil to, have those 301 and 304 in format and the rationale. That won't take very much time, and we'll focus on 103 and 710. And then if we, jump forward till in April or whenever, in-person meeting, we could kind of work through the format. And relative to the formatting, Carol, is the these are printed up. In some of them, you know, Michelle did a thing on the capital program where we had current language, proposed language, and rationale.
Mhm.
Seems to me that works if we can use color. Do they print these in color or no?
I can print in color in the office. When it gets actually on the ballot, there won't be anything in color, but in terms of what we can present to the, it can be in color.
But even on the ballot, if we have to, we could italicize instead of, we wanted to italicize. any word.
I was gonna say, they've got specific rules, but I'll deal with that when that time comes.
Okay, cool.
So you deal with, you put, when we get this cake baked, you deal with the putting it together into that printed distributed document?
Yes.
Jack, at the last meeting, there was some discussion about having a kind of preliminary meeting with the council, or at least some members of the council, with kind of an initial sort of run through of our proposals. If the timeline is as tight as Carol suggests, meaning that we need to have it by June, would you want to think, is there any merit to thinking about having some sort of a preliminary meeting with the council for the April meeting? I'm asking now because Carol would be able to weigh in on it.
That would, let's look forward to that. That would work for me. And so the third on Monday, if we stay with what we've been doing in April, is the 18th.
Yes.
How about, could we invite the council to come to that meeting? Or I gotta believe we'd be, unless there's some holdup on 103 and 710, we'd be done by then. We could, you know, take them through in a, you know, this current format, current language, proposed language, rationale, and be there to describe the thinking. Does that make sense to you, Karen?
Yes, it does.
And that, and you know, this is, and if they suggest a change or want a clarification, we can do so. This isn't necessarily the final document at that point, right?
My thought would be that if it were in April, it would allow us May. If we have a June deadline, it would allow us to meet again in May, circle back to whatever changes might be necessary that they want to see, and have time to get it for June.
That works for me.
Okay.
So we would invite the council to come to the April 18th meeting, and then we will have a meeting on the 14th. Is that correct?
Yes.
March 14th, I mean, right?
March 14th, yeah. And will you be back by April 18th?
No, I won't.
No, Michelle, you'll be back by April 14th.
No, I won't. I won't be back till first week of May.
Okay,
Oh,
and
okay.
Jack, will you be back?
Yeah.
I mean, I can do Zoom, but I can't do anything in person till then. I can do March Zoom, but not April.
Carol, do I recall your latest email had the provision that the meetings could be a hybrid format?
And they have been allowed to be hybrid ever since these orders went into effect, but we're not set up for hybrid here.
Okay, so, and would that expire on the 14th anyway?
March 19th.
Okay, so it wouldn't matter. Okay.
Unless it's extended again.
Yep. Okay.
Who knows?
Okay.
Are you done?
I hope so.
Why don't we plan on March 14th via Zoom, April 18th. And Carol, do I need to do something to trigger an invite to the council?
Well, I think you should send something, either yourself or Michael, just inviting the council to a home rule charter meeting on April 18th. And the way this new order is written, if it gets extended again, you have the ability to meet in person, so long as you have enough room to allow the public to meet in person. So I think you could meet in person on the 18th of April if you wanted to.
Okay. And Jack, you have to send out another agenda for the 14th,
Okay.
March, yeah.
because I'll have to post that.
Okey-doke. And the only, okay, so let's everybody mark their calendars as such. I will reach out to Phil and Monica and Chuck, and hopefully they'll be able to make those, but I think we'd have a quorum and you know, if at all possible, should stay the course on this timeline.
Okay. I'll then make a motion that we adjourn for this evening.
Okay,
Okay, well, my apologies for my technological glitch, and thank